Good evening, everybody, and thank you for joining the Forget Your Pizza Party podcast. My name is Chris,
My name's Misty.
and tonight's episode, what are we going to talk about tonight?
So tonight we're going to talk about training new hires.
Oh, that sounds like fun. Do you remember being a new hire?
Absolutely.
How many new hires do you think you assisted in training during your career?
Well, on the last unit that I worked, I was kind of the go-to for training. So by the time I left, I pretty much had, if not fully trained every single nurse in that unit. I had some type of involvement in their training, which I don't know, probably,
Couple dozen?
yeah, at least.
Yeah, I think I'm there too. Between the two hospitals I worked at, I was a nurse preceptor for multiple different nurses. So I think we have some experience not only going through it as a new grad RN, but also as an instructor and preceptor.
Mhm.
So tell me about some of your experiences when you were a new grad RN with your preceptors.
So it was kind of rough because the preceptor I had for my first nursing job was pretty distracted with some personal issues she was going through that was kind of being reflected at work. I honestly think she probably shouldn't even been training me based on what was going on because she was very, very distracted. She had me call doctors. They didn't really need to be calling in the middle of the night.
What was that? I remember that. What was the one story about that you having to call a doctor?
So on the unit I worked for, we were a step down unit and we took cardiothoracic surgical patients. Typically, once they were stable enough to come out of the ICU, they came out to our floor. So we had one of these patients on our floor, and the patient was retaining urine. We bladder scanned him. He needed a Foley. We didn't have an order for that. So me only being several weeks into my orientation, brand new nurse, she had me call the cardiothoracic surgeon in the middle of the night. Well, little did I know, you don't call your cardiothoracic surgeon in the middle of the night. You call the PAs that are on call. Well, she had me do that or call the actual surgeon. And when he answered, I said, "Hey, my name's Misty. I'm calling from blah, blah, blah. My patient's retaining urine. We bladder scanned. I think he had like 800,000 mLs of
Yeah, so worthy for a
urine."
Foley. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you didn't call the in-house doc for surgical patients like that. Was just asking to get your
Yeah, too
ass
many
chewed
toes being
out.
stepped on with that one.
Yeah. So I called him, and once I told him everything, I asked, "Hey, can I get an order for a Foley?" And he mumbled something, couldn't understand it. So I said, "I'm sorry, I didn't hear you." And he pretty much said that, "I am getting a blowjob right now. Don't you ever fucking call me again in the middle of the night." And then he hung up.
That sounds fantastic. Do you think she did it on purpose? Or do you think she was so
So,
distracted?
no, from what I gathered and what I heard from other people who knew her particularly, she kind of liked to do that to the newer nurses that she trained. So why? I don't know.
That sounds like an eat your young sort of situation.
Yeah.
That would set up new nurses to really hate their job right off the bat.
That, and then not only that, but you're working a 12-hour shift, and you'll probably remember this as I speak about it because we drove together when we worked night shift. So I would get through my shift. We'd have four patients. I'd get all my charting done. She would literally wait until like 7 in the morning, right after we gave report, to go through all of my charting. There were times that I was still there charting at 9, 10 o'clock in
Yeah,
the
I
morning
remember that.
as a new grad.
I was so pissed.
Oh, it was horrible because she was too busy speaking with her friend about all of her problems and all these things going on instead of actually kind of monitoring what I was doing and staying on track with getting us out of there on time. It was horrible. And when you had to be back the next night, leaving at 10 o'clock, 9:30, 10 o'clock, and then turning around and coming back for your night shift is bad.
I didn't have quite that experience. I had 3 different preceptors because I was on a rotating shift. So I had 2 nurses on the floor during the day shift that I would alternate between on shifts. And then I had an older nurse that ended up being much more of a great resource for me than the 2 that trained me. There was very much a unit clique that I didn't know about because, again, you're new. And the individuals that I was with kind of were a part of that clique. They were always staffed on the one unit wing, and they kind of had a little bit of a reputation among the other nurses, which I didn't know about. So me being new, I'm placed with them, and that kind of set the tone for the other nurses and how they interacted with me for a little bit until they got to know me. And then I had the fortunate ability to go through and be the inaugural group of 5 of us that went through the nurse residency program at our hospital. And so I ended up getting additional resources and training through that, which the healthcare system implemented all over the world, actually. So I was the very first group. But I feel like my time as a new grad RN, there was a lot of eat your young situations. There were a lot of nurses that, instead of actually just guiding you, would put you down. They took advantage of you being a new grad and gave you terrible assignments. They really put you through the gauntlet. And I think it set a really bad precedent. So I know when I became a preceptor for new grads coming onto the unit, I ended up trying to be the exact opposite of my experience. I don't know if that was the same way for you.
Oh, absolutely. That's no way to learn as a new grad. You're already stressed because you really have no clue what you're doing. You're being thrown out into this chaos, and your preceptor should be your mentor and your kind of your support system. So I did not use that experience taught me how I didn't want to be. So I I never did that to any of my
Yeah,
trainees.
that was a terrible way to. And I know I remember coming down and sitting next to you when I would get done rounding when I was a nurse practitioner in the hospital, and actually would see you in action with the individuals you were training. And I thought you actually did a pretty awesome job at it. And I fully understood why you were kind of a unit resource for that. Somewhat, though, I feel like you were taken advantage of. It took some of the responsibility off of management to find other people that were suitable to train because what they already had you as a unit resource. And it kind of took their responsibility away from finding others to secure that kind of role. And they just put that on you very heavily.
Well, I didn't mind it. I actually really, really enjoy training because I used it as a way to strengthen my knowledge. So, yeah, I knew I have all this knowledge. Obviously, I wouldn't be training if I wasn't capable, but things change. And these younger nurses that are coming out have new and different ways of doing things, or they're a little more fresh coming out of school. So they have different ideas, or maybe they were taught something differently. So it actually strengthened my knowledge. I feel like it how
Enforce.
reinforced. That's a great word. Yeah, it reinforced what I knew. And, some of them I really learned from, and you can take that to something, the next person. So it was both ways. I'm training you to be our future nurse.
And teammate.
Yeah. Yeah. Because especially in the ICUs, you do not want to work with somebody that you cannot rely on. And that was one of the biggest things I stressed was that we are a team. We're in it together. I don't care where you come from. I don't care who you are. You are here as a team. And if you can't be a team player, then this isn't the place for you.
What was one of the struggles you found precepting new grad RNs when you were doing
The biggest struggle.
the struggle either with them or the responsibilities that were placed on you for their education and their onboarding? What do you feel like it was the biggest hurdle, struggle, obstacle, whatever, what have you, that you found when you were precepting individuals? And I'm gonna, for you, because you worked on PCU and then CCU, I'm gonna kind of put that question more on the CCU side when you were down there?
Yeah, I really didn't do any training on PCU because I was only like a year out. And back then your 1 year nurses weren't forced into training the new hires. But so down in the CCU, I know our training was about 12 weeks, could go a little bit longer in the CCU for a new grad. The one thing I noticed was around week 6. I think it happens to every nurse, but when you're in the ICUs, you're just literally being hit with everything. And the way I trained was your first day with me, I'm setting you up to go along with how I do everything. Once you're done with training with me, you can rearrange your charting, you can rearrange the worksheets you use to give report. That's fine. But when you're with me, you're going to do it the way I do it so I can follow you and you can follow me easily. And a lot of people actually took to that. But anyways, by week 6, I feel like that's kind of when most um, new nurses or just learning a new position in general, it's really hard. You start doubting your knowledge, you're just overwhelmed. So I would say the hardest part was getting them past that week 6. Because once you got past week 6, you were if you could handle that stress and get through it, you were gonna be okay.
Yeah, some of them would graduate out at week 8 if they were really competent at what they did.
I had one girl that I actually trained. I was her preceptor for her bachelor degree. When she was graduating, I was her, what did they call that? Your internship or whatever. So she was with me, I think she was with me she had to be with me for so many hours. I can't remember how many hours it was. So I had the opportunity of having her during that time.
Mhm.
So, and she was fantastic, very, very smart. She picked right up on things. And one thing that helped her was that she was also an aide in the hospital. So I feel like a lot of times when you have aides working through nursing school, they tend to transition a little bit better into that new nurse role.
Yeah.
So she was very smart. She picked right up. I was able, as a student, they're a little bit limited to some of the things they could do, but whatever I could have her do, she did it. So when she came out as a new grad and we hired her, she was able to step right back into that role. And then actually, pretty much, I could have her running her assignment from day one.
Right. I think if a lot of you future nurses, if you really want to get a head start, not only from a hiring perspective, but also from a knowledge perspective, getting started as an aide in the hospital, I know it sucks. You're used and abused in
It's
that role.
grunt work.
It is 100% grunt work. You will learn the team aspect of it. You will be around the procedures and protocols a little bit more. Plus, it will help you with the transition on hiring. If you're a good solid PCNA, CNA, whatever title they want to give, if you're a solid team player and you're quick, you're on it, your managers will pick up on it. If there are positions that are open when you get your RN license, you will be more than likely transitioned into an RN role much, much faster. You would still have to go through HR and the onboarding process on that, but you're talking about an expedited hiring process for you because you're already internally in the system.
I also think as being a aide before stepping into that nursing role, you actually have more respect for that nursing position when you make that change. Because I think a lot of aides, I don't know if you had this, but some of them were like, what are the nurses really doing? Because they would see us sitting and doing a lot of charting. Yeah, of course, they saw a lot of the hands-on stuff, but they didn't really understand. And I've had some of them say once they made that crossover to being a nurse, like it all came together. They
Right.
understood the role.
Well, and don't get me wrong when I say this, but there are a lot of lazy nurses out there too, though.
Oh, absolutely.
So I know the CNAs, PCNAs, they would get this perspective that based on the work attitude of the lazier nurses, that's the way all of them were. And for those of us that actually worked our asses off, I would hear aides say that, and I'm like, I mean, I worked as an aide, and I'm like, you all have no idea the transition, the responsibility, the amount of task-oriented stuff that you have to do, networking with families, networking with the doctors, making those connections, getting orders, implementing those orders, signing off on everything, double checking it, getting the orders actually initiated on the patient, transfers, whatever. All the back office, back of the desk type of management that they didn't have to see because they're down on the units, or they came from night shift where it's a little slower. During the day shift, depending on what unit and what specialty you may work in, your workflow is going to be tremendous. Every single unit has their own specific way it operates. Every one of them is busy in their own way, but the aides may not see that. It depends on where they camp out, depends on how interactive they are with the nursing staff. And so, yeah, when you transition that role, you get a whole new perspective on the amount of tasked phone calls, cover your ass moments that you have to do with the doctors that you may not be able to be at bedside with them. But again, all they see is that you're not helping them. And there are nurses that don't help, but a vast majority of us do. But we're also handling 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 patients and all of the back stuff that has to happen in order to make that patient healthy and progress to discharge.
Well, and a lot of, like, especially in your ICUs, we were able to chart everything right off of our screens. We could pull up our own EKG monitoring right on our screen. So we would have our EKGs for our patients pulled up, or we also, all of our vitals were automatically loaded into our charts. So we didn't have to get up and physically go press buttons and do those things. We could set times we wanted things going off, or sometimes we would just be sitting near the bedside watching what was going on. But they don't have that aspect in their charting that we have.
Right. So got a little off tangent, but I'm gonna bring back. But those are all good points. And just for all you nursing students out there, LPNs to ADNs or ADNs to bachelors to get into the hospital, or just working your way through all of those, just straight through to BSN. Anybody that wants to get in the hospital, work as an aide, you're already locked into that position. You're already in the hospital system. You do well, you'll get hired or they'll find you a spot. Trust me. If you're a team player, I can't tell you how many times the managers would actually find a location for you as an aide to get hired on. So that brings back to struggles that I had as a preceptor. Was one of the things that they don't tell you in nursing school is how much of a struggle the charting system actually is. It is one of the your knowledge is not going to be there. You have a lot coming at you when you're in nursing school. You're doing lifespan, gynecology, pediatrics, labor and delivery, you name it, tons of stuff thrown at you. There's no specialization. But one thing that they don't get to expose you to is the EMRs, so the electronic medical records. It is by far one of the most frustrating things, and it is by far one of the most difficult things for people to pick up when they're a new hire, or a new hire, new grad RN, let alone somebody coming from a different healthcare system with a whole different EMR, and they have to precept under you for 1 to 4 weeks until they get up to a working knowledge on the EMRs. That was one of the biggest struggles, and was also setting up new grad nurses with a workflow on the EMR so that they could get their charting done. And the ramp up period for new grad RNs, I mean, you may have the first 1 or 2 shifts, they may have you shadow, but then you get to the 3rd or 4th and you're taking an assignment. You may take 1 to 2 patients, but you're starting the charting on them. You're doing the med pass, etc. The ramp up period escalates and quickly escalates from there. If you're competent, you might be taking a full assignment by week, 3?
Well,
Just depends on the unit.
depending on our unit, you were taking a full assignment out the door right after that one day of shadowing and getting you completely set up. You were taking the patients the next day. Now, you weren't necessarily giving report or doing the rounding report off, but you were taking care of that patient. And yes, I was hovering over you.
Yep.
But I would also say one of the most difficult things for new grads is time management.
Yes.
Time management is something that comes with practice, but it is by far one of the most important things of your job is
Right.
being able to time manage.
Well, and triage your time management.
Yeah.
Not all tasks deserve the same amount of time, and not all conditions deserve the same amount of time. And being able to differentiate what task and what specific disease, what patient actually needs to be triaged on the hierarchy of most critical to least critical, and tackling the issues with those individuals first is difficult. And that comes with time and good team to bounce things off of. One of the other things I found when I would precept was certain new grad RN, and even when we had nursing students on the floor, being afraid to ask questions, looking foolish. I would tell the people that I worked with, new grad RNs that I was precepting, like, look, ask me anything and everything. I want you to ask me
This
questions.
is your time.
I want you to engage with me, because when we get out there and you are done with your preceptor, and you're graduated out of that, you're on your own. I've got my own assignment. You've got your own assignment. I'll still help you, but it's not going to be in the same capacity. Ask me anything and everything. Engage with me. I will find you the answer. I will either have it or I will find it. And the ones that asked me the most questions ended up being the most successful nurses through the onboarding process. And the ones that asked me, unless they were a transfer in and an experienced nurse and they already knew it and I already knew that they knew, that wasn't the issue. But the new grad RNs that didn't ask me questions, I ended up having to, they went in for remediation. Their onboarding was longer. Or one of the toughest things that I ever had to do was sit in with the educators and actually remove multiple new grad RNs from the floor because they ended up being a hindrance and a safety hazard.
Yeah, I had that multiple times. But I always told my trainees that if you're not asking me questions, I'm going to be worried.
Yep, and then my favorite was the new grads that thought they knew it all. I only had maybe one, maybe two of those, and I will tell you what, that in the long run did not serve them well, and they ended up having some critical incidents because they thought they knew it all. They didn't ask questions. We called them sentinel events. For those in healthcare, you'll know what a sentinel or a critical event is, and they ended up it messed them up so bad that they ended up leaving nursing altogether. And I don't know if that happened with you, but it did with me.
I have several stories on some nurses that I've had to actually have removed. That's hard.
Yeah. Speaking of stories, do you have any ones that are funny that any of your your new grad RNs went through?
So one thing that I can suggest to all you new nurses coming into your first time roles with your preceptors is there's several things that you don't want to say. One of those is, man, it's quiet around here.
That's a no-no.
Yeah, don't ever. That is, you're going to get so many looks. You're going to get told to shut up. You're going to not be the most favorite person if you come in and start using
you're
that
going to
word.
make enemies and distance yourself from your team. That is one of those, that's like a dirty word. There's only a few of them in our English language that are dirty. And at least for healthcare workers, that's probably the deadliest word you can say on a unit.
Yeah. One of the other things that I really suggest you don't tell or say to your preceptor is, man, I wish my patient would crash, or man, I wish I could get a dying patient that we could revive. Horrible, most horrible thing to say.
Be careful what you wish for.
Jinxing yourself, especially in an ICU, because you have no idea what is going to be coming through that door next. And I actually had a situation, and it is the first and only time I've ever had this happen. But my orientee at that time, we were leaving. It was a Saturday. We were leaving and we were going to be back Sunday, and it was going to be her last day with me before she flipped to night shift for a couple weeks. And then she was going to be on her own. So what she said to me was, man, I haven't had we took care of really, really critical people, but her patient, she did not receive a patient that was physically crashing, dying at that time, and having to throw all the lines in. Pretty much everybody we had was well managed, and then we took over the care. Not saying that they had good outcomes or that we had really bad shifts, but she never took care of one that was actually crashing, coming from the floor. So she says, man, I really need a patient that crashes and dies so we can revive them. And I looked at her and I said, don't you ever pay that again. I'm like, you have no idea what we're about to walk into tomorrow. So we go home, get our sleep. We come back, literally, we walk into the doors of our unit and chaos is going on. So they called a rapid on this patient that was on the floor, going in and out of VTAC, almost looked torsades like even. So patient was just rushed down. She was placed in the room. They had made contact with our cardiologist. Our cardiologist was rushing in because he was getting ready to come and do his rounds anyways. So he was parking. We hurry up. We got a really, really horrible report because, when you're transitioning like that, sorry for those floor nurses, but the reports aren't always great. So you're having to do a lot of research. Not saying you guys aren't bad, because I know you guys have tons and tons of work and a lot of patients, but sometimes the reports are a little bit slim. So we're getting just very basic information.
Wait a second. Are we talking like ED report slim?
No, I'm talking like
A little bit more detailed than ED report? Come on now.
sometimes.
Come on. Okay.
It
Thank you.
depends on
All
your
right.
nurse and the situation.
I don't think anything's as rapid fire as an ED report.
I've had some really good ED reports.
Well, there are
though.
few and far between for us.
Yes.
Yeah.
But anyways, so so this patient, she flips right back into VTAC for torsades. And so we're like, oh my gosh, here we go again. So while we're standing at the nurse station finishing our report, the cardiologist calls for a quick update as he's pulling into the garage. My new hire she's on the phone talking to him. When the lady flips back into torsades or VTAC, whatever she was in, she goes, oh my gosh, she's in VTAC, gotta go. She hangs up on the cardiologist and we run into the room. This woman at this time was a DNR, comfort care, do not resuscitate. So we let her go, because you're not going to do anything at that point because her heart stopped.
So wait, she was comfort
She
care,
went
not comfort care
pulseless.
arrest, right?
She was comfort care arrest.
Okay.
She went comfort care arrest, sorry. So we didn't do anything. We just kind of stood there because she was pulseless and just let her go. So she goes complete flatline really fast. Family's screaming, crying. They're of a Russian culture, just really, really upset. We remove the family. We take them to a room that we had that we would normally put these people in. And the cardiologist runs in and we're like, it's too late. She passed. We hadn't called the intensivist team yet, but we were like, are you willing to call time of death? So he's like, yeah. So he calls time of death. Okay.
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
So he goes and says, I'm going to go talk to the family and let them know kind of what's going on and just go talk with them about what happened. So he's off talking to them. It was like 5-10 minutes later. We're standing out at the nurse station and just kind of talking about what happened. And I looked at my orientee and I'm like, you need to never say those words again when we come in here about wanting a dying patient. And we're just kind of laughing. And then all of a sudden, on the monitor,
She resurrected?
she resurrected.
Huh.
You just hear beep, beep.
Was it
beep.
legit?
It was absolutely legit.
Yeah.
She had the most perfect vitals. I mean, we had removed the oxygen on this lady. She was just still hooked up. We just hadn't cleaned her up. She literally came back. We run in the room. She is awake. Okay. She is awake and just looking at us and speaking her language in Russian. And we're like, oh my God, what is going on? And we're like, okay, let's check the vitals. Like, we're checking the blood pressure. Everything is right. So I'm like, oh my gosh, we got to get the cardiologist. So I run back to where he is. And I'm like, you got to come here right now. We got a problem. So we're running back into the room and I'm like, this woman is alive. She resurrected. So he's like, okay. So I'm like, I'm getting the intensivist team because we're going to have to intubate. We're going to have to line. We're going to have to do everything if the family wants it done, which obviously they did. At this point, they're like, yeah, she's back. Let's do it. So we are trying to intubate this woman and she is fighting us. I mean, straight fighting us. We're trying to get her restrained. We're trying to get her sedated. We get her intubated. We were throwing art lines. We were throwing central lines. We were doing everything we could. Well, needless to say, she ended up on every life-saving drip by the end of our shift. Well, not even by the end of our shift. This was like at 7:30 in the morning. By noon, 1 o'clock, we have this woman on every life-saving drip. She was on insulin drip. She was on heparin drip. She was on epi. She was on levo. She was on vaso. She was on everything. Pressure support, just anything that was keeping her going, which was obviously her body was shutting down. So it wasn't working. So the families around the bed, we get the intensivist in there and we're like, I'm sorry, but we are at a point where there is absolutely nothing we can do for this woman. She is going to die whether we have this stuff on or off. That's keeping her alive at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So the family decided, all right, we're just going to withdraw care. So we withdrew care, extubated the woman, and she died probably within 5-10 minutes.
Yep. So the babushka ended up passing. No third resurrection, right?
No. And we made sure we took all of the stuff off of her immediately. So we wouldn't get another all of a sudden heartbeat. But no, she really did die this time. And I looked at my orientee and I was like, I hope you're happy because you had death, resurrection, and then death again, all in one shift. One person. That does not happen. In my entire career, I have never seen a person come back to life 5-10 minutes after.
Yeah.
After dying.
Spontaneous.
Never seen it. And some of the 35-year nurses, very well-seasoned nurses at that time that were working said that they've never even seen anything like that themselves.
Yeah. And so did that orientee learn their lesson?
She absolutely did. She was loving it though, because she got all of that experience that she really, really wanted before she left her time with me. So.
Hell of a way to get the experience. A funny story that I have was we had a patient. My dad loves using rubbing alcohol to clean his face and everything, right? I had a patient like that in the hospital and I'm off answering a phone call. This orientee is on a 2-patient assignment. So we're in like week 2 or 3 of the onboarding and week 2 or 3 of the onboarding. She's like, yeah, I got the patient some alcohol pads. I'm like, all right, well, that's fine. That's not a big deal. I ended up walking in there because the call light was going off and she was busy with the other patient and he's like, yeah, this stuff is a little odd. I'm not used to it. I'm usually used to having cotton balls and using rubbing alcohol at home to get the oil off my face. And I was like, oh, okay, let me look at it. She ended up getting skin prep pads by accident. And he was cleaning his eyelids, his eyebrows, around his nose and everything else. So he ended up having one eye almost completely glued shut from the skin prep. And the other one was kind of glued open. And so we had to figure out how to clean that off. I ended up just soaking his face for about 30 minutes to an hour to get most of it. But that was an experience. And I ended up swallowing about an hour of my time because she didn't know how to handle it. And we're like hospitalists. I've never had that happen before or since, but that was my experience with a new grad orientee. So we're going to end it here for tonight. If you all have any ideas for us, we'd like to hear from them. You can leave it in the comments below. Just remember, we're building this channel for healthcare workers by healthcare workers. This is for us and by us for all of you. We want you to actively participate. We are active on all of our social medias, interacting with people that leave comments, good, bad, or indifferent. We'll interact, we'll be respectful, but we will also give our opinion and kind of let you know how we're thinking, whether you agree with us or not. Remember, you are more than your job. Your jobs will replace you. Are your life with your family, with your friends. You are your life with going on vacations, getting away from your job. You are replaceable. You are 100% expendable from that job. Make the most of your time away from it.
And you have PTO for a reason.
Yep.
Use it.
Be safe getting home. We hope you have stable shifts the rest of the week. Until the next time, we'll be dropping a new episode next Wednesday. Like, subscribe, comment, and share these videos whenever you see them and get a chance. Help us build this channel. As always, have a great and blessed week.
Till the next time.
Bye now.
Healthcare heroes on the grind, underappreciated. Weekend comes, but the pizza's not celebrated. Managers order, they just can't seem to get it right. We gather round, but we're ready for a bite tonight. No toppings, no love, cold slices on our plate. Pizza party, let the podcast begin. Healthcare warriors, let the laughter spin. Through terrible toppings and grease that we dread, we'll keep this conversation alive instead. Chit chat, laughter, it's our weekly unwind. But this cardboard crust feels like a sinister sign. Heartfelt stories wrapped in cheesy regret. As workers unite over this pizza we fret. A slice of happiness, more like a slice of pain.